Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Nepp, and as Anthony said, I'm from Macalester College in St. Paul, Minnesota. Some of you may know about Macalester. We're pretty small. We're just over 2,100 students, and we're undergrad only. And so our GIS is housed in the geography department, like many GIS programs are. I've been teaching there for about 7 years, and before that I worked with NACIS at Hedberg Maps, so I know everything basically because of Nat. So when I started at Macalester, we'll see if that loads. When I started at Macalester, I started teaching the Intro GIS course. I do all the hands-on labs in cartography. And we're going to switch to a PDF, and this is why you do this. We have an Intro GIS course, and I teach all the hands-on lab components of it, but I also support all of our advanced courses as well. So we have a number of advanced courses that we run. Our pull from different departments. Intro GIS is required for all geography majors, and currently we have about 80 geography majors, which for a school of our size is actually pretty big. And so we can support a lot of advanced classes. But I'm going to talk to you about the Advanced Cartography and GeoVis course because that is of my own creation, and that's how I designed these techniques. These are all techniques I've learned on my own. They're things I've gathered from other people. They're basically my reflections on my experience of trying to provide students an opportunity to learn something that they didn't know before. So some of the goals with this course were to expose students to technologies that modern cartographers are using now. And part of the problem is that I don't know all of those technologies. So I really wanted it to be kind of like attending NACIS. Like, what are people doing right now? What's some sweet stuff you can do with maps? And like, how do you get people to learn how to do that? And it's hard because I don't know everything. So I have a master's in GIS. I have some practical cartography experience. I had to learn Illustrator on the job, and Nat was very patient with me while I did that. And I can script a little bit, but I wouldn't call myself a developer by any stretch of the imagination, and programmer I think would even be a stretch. So I was kind of sitting there going, well, it would be great if they could see all these things and do all these things, but I certainly am not an expert. And let's be honest, one program does not work in every situation. So I wanted it to be very design focused. So let's tell a story with data, but let's do it in a way that makes sense. Let's not just like ram a story into a platform just because I know it. That's a terrible method. So there are two main projects in this course. One is their static viz project. It's just an 11 by 17 print layout. And then they have a dynamic viz project, which they usually use an online platform of some kind, maybe ArcGIS Story Maps or Carto, but I really don't limit them. I tell them they can do whatever they want. But to get to these two big projects, I kind of break it up into smaller, low-stakes labs. So these are some examples of the static viz projects at the end. So most of my students, they've all taken Intro GIS, so they have a fallback platform. So they all can use ArcGIS desktop. And so worst case scenario, they fall back on what they know. So if all else fails, they go back to ArcMap. But I try to build in opportunities for them to learn other things. And I'm just gonna go through a couple examples. So the first lab, and this is a newer lab for this class, I got from NACIS, actually. So Lisa Rost gave a talk at NACIS 2016 in Colorado Springs, and I just loved it. It was about map poetry and asking ourselves, what do we overlook in maps? What was my personal experience with this place and trying to depict that, or what is the feel of a place? And my students at Macalester are very into expressing their own experiences and making things very individual. So this is our kind of like starter lab. One, it kind of breaks what they're expecting because this is billed as an advanced GIS course, and we do very little GIS in it. So I kind of want to stop them right then and say, this is what we're going to be doing in this class, is thinking creatively and kind of trying to figure out how to produce something meaningful. So they have to create a crafted map, and that's just my term for non-digital and handmade. So they can just do whatever they want. They can take an existing map, cut it up, reshape it, draw on it, whatever they want to do. But then so these are examples of things that I've received because on this assignment. And basically they have to answer one of those questions that she posed at the end of her presentation. And we go outside and we present them to one another. It's a small class and we only have an hour, so it's usually around 16 students. So that's about 3 to 4 minutes a student, and it takes all hour. But it's worth it because it makes them very vulnerable in front of their other peers. And that's really important for this class because it builds a community. So if you have to be vulnerable in front of someone, it makes you trust them a little bit more and kind of forms this relationship within the class. And it's really important to be vulnerable in this class because you will ask for help more. You won't mind saying, I don't know something, or being like, oh God, that totally bombed, if you've already been vulnerable in front of that person, right? So that's why I start out with that one, and so far it's gone really well. The second lab is just get to know a design software. So some students come in knowing a little bit of Illustrator, or maybe they've done one project with it. A few students sometimes have taken a studio art class, but not very many. So this is their opportunity. This is a partner lab. So the main benefit of a partner lab is you share responsibility. So you share the stress and the creative process, right? And you get to share knowledge. So if somebody knows a little bit of a design program or something, they can share that knowledge. If you're really worried about someone kind of flaking out on their partner, you can add an individual assignment. So I usually have them at least upload something they've either made in the past with Illustrator or Inkscape and tell me like, yes, I know how to do this, or if they've never used the program before, you have to create something small, like a business card or a schematic map or something. This one is basically the idea is to see something you like and go and try and do it, right? Because I feel like this is something that we all do as designers a lot, but as an undergrad who's never held a job before, they've never needed or had to do this necessarily, right? And certainly not in a design framework. So this is also an opportunity to cart out all of the sweet maps that we have as a department and show them some really cool techniques from the past and from the present. So I have them look on Pinterest, Instagram, I pull out all these old maps and they get to choose whatever they want and try and figure it out. And they actually really enjoy this. They get super frustrated, like they hate it while they're doing it, and afterwards they're like, this was awesome. Like, so it gets mixed reviews. So the ones in red are the stuff that my students have actually produced. The ones surrounding those are the kind of the inspiration for it. And then they have to go back and try and create a map type that we don't cover in intro. So this could be a flow map, this could be a cartogram of some kind, it could be a value by alpha, hex bins, all kinds of different things. I do give them some links to resources, like here's some stuff people have done or tutorials people have written. None of them are my own, so it's just links to what other people have put up. And this is usually to support their static viz project. So by this point, they've done a proposal for the project, they have some data, they've played around with it a little bit, and so here I would like them to use it as an opportunity to kind of practice for their larger project. So for both these last two, I don't grade the product. I say, and I even tell them, please don't spend more than 5 hours on this. I say, whatever you have at the end of 5 hours, you just turn it in, okay? Because it's about effort and not product. So I want to see what you can do in 5 hours. How far did you get, right? Some people totally bomb this. I mean, it's just terrible, okay? And that's okay, because the times I have learned the most are when I've shot really big and failed really hard, right? And I think we've all had an experience like that. And so that I'm trying to set up opportunities for that to happen. I don't want them to worry about, these students are super obsessed with grades, and I'm trying to break them of that habit. So I want to get them out of the, my grade is so important mindset, and to do that I say, don't worry about what it looks like. Because as soon as I take that away, then they actually try something that they really want to learn. If I say, I don't care what it looks like at the end, just try whatever it is that's most important to you to learn, then they actually will, which is awesome. So I had to throw this one in here. This one's not really learning any technique or anything, but Ken Fields talked at NACIS 2016 about their style guides from ICA. And so I wanted them to do a visual style guide, and so this is what they came up with. But I knew Ken was presenting in this session, so I just wanted to let him know that people are actually doing this stuff. And then finally, so those are all kind of supporting the static viz project, and then this lab is much more about the dynamic viz project. And I call this one Platform Boot Camp. And the reason for that is they do it in groups, and basically you get a week to figure out some sort of platform. And usually this is the first time I tell them to pick something they've never done before. There are no police for that, I just tell them, and it's honor system. So Cardo, Tableau, Public, Leaflet, RStudio, or Shiny apps, and Esri Story Maps are all stuff that they're allowed to do, but honestly they're allowed to pick whatever platform they want. It doesn't have to be on an approved list. So it's groups usually of 3 to 4. They figure it out, they spend a week on it, learning it, and then they have to brief the class on the pros and cons of each platform, what they would recommend the platform for. So is this more of a narrative, storytelling style, or is it more kind of data-driven, gives you different, is it like a dashboard, right, like Tableau Public, where you get different views of the data, and it's more about data exploration and analysis. And then they're allowed to choose whatever platform they want or combine multiple platforms for their final dynamic viz project. So a couple of things, a couple of strategies here I just wanted to talk about for creating space. So one is just be vulnerable, like I said before, and that includes myself. So I had to be okay with saying, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to your question is. But let's try it. Let's try it together and figure it out, right? Sometimes I'll do some research on my own and say, I need more time to get back to you on that, and I will actually go and try to learn something myself and come back and be helpful about it. But a lot of times I'm like, you know what, I don't know. Let's go ask so-and-so over in computer science, or let's go ask our colleague down the hall, right? And so using resources around campus also is really helpful. Or if you have a student who's very good at R, but not in your class, sometimes I bring her in and ask her to help a little bit. So, and students there usually really like to share their skills. Partner labs are awesome. Like I said, it's sharing knowledge, but also sharing the stress of each, because a weekly turn-in is quite a lot. And if you have to be creative in a week, all the time, every week for 14 weeks, it gets a little draining. Low stakes assignments are great. So literally, each of those labs is 10 points in a 300-point class. The other 200 points are their dynamic and static viz projects. So it's low stakes, like lead up to the big thing. Then we have grade the effort. Most students tell me this is very freeing. So by grading the effort, I just mean, do you know more than you did a week ago, right? Yes? Great. Here's your 10 points. Okay, it's really not that big a deal, right? 10 points is nothing. And have a fallback. So like I said, all of my students have that ArcMap fallback if they need it. So how do I keep students engaged? Like, why would they want to keep doing this? One is choice. They get to choose every single week what their topic's going to be. Sometimes I narrow it down for them, like I give them a list of things, so it's not like completely overwhelming. But they get to choose their topics, they get to choose the technologies they want to learn, they get to choose the techniques they want to learn. Everything pretty much in this class is their choice, like within a realm and within reason. And then we share. So every week we take the time and we talk about what they've done. It takes a ton of class time. I'm not gonna lie. I give up a lot of our in-class time talking about things students have done. But it's good because it lets them know that everyone has struggled with this assignment. It's not just them. It also lets them share cool things they've done. It allows me to give them feedback and praise and say, that was awesome. Like, you just did something so sweet that I've never done before. And you, sorry, and you now have that knowledge forever, right? And so a lot of my students think that they don't have the ability to do the things that I'm showing them, but they do. They just need the confidence. So really what my point is to just try and build in structure into your class to give them opportunities to learn things that they already want to know, right? They already have things that they want to accomplish and design, but they just don't have the opportunity or the time yet to commit to it. And then I spend a lot of time in class on critique and design related things because a lot of their outside of class time is spent on the actual software and the technology piece. And then try to break your projects into smaller chunks to make them more manageable and to make them lower stakes. And then build in many contact points about projects. And this one is just for my own peace of mind because a lot of the students, leave things to the last minute and you don't find out about problems until it's too late. So that's all I have for you today.
We have plenty of time for a few questions for Ashley.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any feedback from students who graduated?
The question was, did I get any feedback from students who graduated? Yes, and actually a lot of them have gotten jobs based off of their portfolio pieces that they made for this class, yeah.
So I appreciate the idea of grading students on effort. So how do you assess that, or is it simply up to them to kind of figure out how much they learned?
Oh, no, so I haven't tried that yet, and I would be curious if anyone's used like a self-rating system for grading, because I've toyed with that idea. But no, basically it's a 16-person class, so I kind of already know where their skill set is and what they can and can't do, so I just say, does this look like 5 hours of work for this particular student, yes or no?
One more question, Ashley?
What do you do if a student just never comes up with an idea or is kind of lost in terms of where to even get started? Or do you have some techniques to help them start?
Yeah, so the question was what happens when a student doesn't have an idea or just kind of flakes out on an assignment and doesn't really know what they're doing. I do have a few techniques for that. One is I do post just places I see of interesting data sets or interesting maps to try and get some creativity going. I also have a few things in my back pocket all the time that I'm like, you know what, I've been waiting for someone to do this kind of map, or I'd really love to see someone make, we have the consumer spending data, and I've been trying to get people to make a map of how much people spend on pickles and olives, because pickles are my favorite thing. But no one has taken me up on that yet, so I'm a little upset about it. But yeah, so I do have a few ideas in the back pocket. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks a lot.